We'll start with one from the Gospel, um, which Sri Ramakrishna himself sung. This is a famous Ram Prasad song from the Gospel. Sri Ramakrishna sang this at Nanda Bose's house on 28 July 1885. The Shokoli Tomari Icha, and the translation goes somewhat like this. This is not an authentic translation. Um, I tried to uh, work with it a little bit. It's all your will, self-willed Tarama, your name. You do your deeds, yet to doership they lay claim. You trap the mighty elephant in a mire, while letting the lame scale peaks higher. To some you elevate to Brahman's bliss, and others you plunge into the abyss. Instrument am I, and you the operator. I am but the house, you the true dweller. Chariot am I, you the charioteer. I move only as you guide me, my dear. It's all your will, self-willed Tarama, your name. You do your deeds, yet to doership they lay claim. সকলি তোমারি ইচ্ছা মই তারা তুমি তোমার কর্ম তুমি করো মা লোকে বলে করিয়া আমি সকলি তোমারি ইচ্ছা মই তারা তুমি তোমার কর্ম তুমি করো মা লোকে বলে করিয়া পঙ্কে বদ্ধ করো করি পঙ্কুরে লঙ্ঘাও গিরি পঙ্কে বদ্ধ করো করি পঙ্কুরে লঙ্ঘাও গিরি কারে দাও মা ব্রহ্মপদ কারে করো মধুগামী কারে দাও মা ব্রহ্মপদ কারে করো মধুগামী সকলি তোমারি ইচ্ছা মই তারা তুমি তোমার কর্ম তুমি করো মা লোকে বলে করিয়া আমি যন্ত্র তুমি যন্ত্রী আমি ঘর তুমি ঘর আমি ঘর তুমি ঘর আমি রথ তুমি রথি যেমন চালা তেমনি চলি সকলি তোমারি ইচ্ছা মই তারা তুমি তোমার কর্ম তুমি করো লোকে বলে করিয়া Since today is Anant Chaturdashi, uh, I thought I would sing one for Lord Ganesh. Um, this is an abhang in Marathi language, written by Sant Eknath. Um, I'll read the translation in a second. You get the track. The title is Omkar Swarupa, the embodiment of Om. Embodiment of Om, that is Lord Ganesh. To you I bow, to you I bow, to you I bow. O true Guru, all powerful, protector of the helpless, to you I bow. Mother and Father in one, treasure of mercy and grace, breaker of chains of illusion, destroyer of worldly delusion, to you I bow. Who else can free me from the net of my weakness, if not you, compassionate Guru? To you I bow, to you I bow. My Guru, an ocean of joy, the support of the three worlds, the master who shines with his own light. Before him, sun and moon grow dim. Neither sun nor moon nor fire can match his radiance. Even the Vedas cannot fathom his self-effulgent form. To you I bow. Eknath declares, my Guru is the supreme, his holy name rests forever on my lips. To you I bow, to you I bow. Omkar Swarupa, Om Rupa, Omkar Rupa, तुझं नमो, तुझं नमो. ओंकार स्वरूपा सद्गुरु समर्था. ओंकार स्वरूपा सद्गुरु समर्था. अनाथाच्या नाथा तुझं नमो, तुझं नमो, तुझं नमो, तुझं नमो, तुझं नमो. ओंकार स्वरूपा सद्गुरु समर्था. अनाथाच्या नाथा तुझं नमो, तुझं नमो, तुझं नमो, तुझं नमो, तुझं नमो. नमो माया बापा गुरु कृपा घना. तोडिया बंधना माया मोहा. मोह जाळ माझे कोण मीरशील. तुझ वीण दयाळा सद्गुरु राया. तुझ नमो, तुझ नमो, तुझ नमो. तुझं नमो, तुझं नमो, तुझं नमो, तुझं नमो, तुझं नमो, तुझं नमो. Sadguru Raya Maza Anand Sagar Trailokyadhar Guru Rava Trailokyadhar Guru Rava Trailokyadhar Guru Rava Guru Rav Swami Ase Swayam Prakash Guru Rav Swami Ase Swayam Prakash Japure Udas Chandra Ravi Japure Udas Chandra Ravi Ravi Shashi Agni Nenati Jagu Paravi Shashi Agni Nenati Jagu Swaprakash Rupa Nene Veda Swaprakash Rupa Nene Veda Tuzanamo Eka Janardani Guru Parabrahma Eka Janardani Guru Parabrahma Tayache Paina Sada Mukhi Tayache Paina Sada Mukhi Tuzanamo Omkar Swarupa Sadguru Samartha Anatha Chanatha Tuzanamo 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 I'll do one more. This is a Kirtan format, Krishna Bhajan from Vaishnav tradition. It is called Madhur Ashtakam. So basically, how sweet Lord is sweet. Adharam madhuram vadanam madhuram nayanam madhuram asitam madhuram. His lips are sweet, his face is sweet, his eyes are sweet, his smile is sweet, his heart is sweet, his gait is sweet. Everything is sweet about the Emperor of Sweetness. Adharam madhuram vadanam madhuram nayanam madhuram hasitam madhuram hridayam madhuram gamanam madhuram Madhuradhipate Rakilam Madhuram. His words are sweet, his character is sweet, his dress is sweet, his form is sweet, his steps are sweet, his wandering is sweet. Everything is sweet about the Lord of Sweetness. Vachanam madhuram charitam madhuram vasanam madhuram balitam madhuram चलितं मधुरं कवितं मधुरं मधुराधिपतेरखिलं मधुरम्. His flute is sweet, his foot dust is sweet, his hands are sweet, his dance is sweet, his friendship is sweet, everything is sweet about the Emperor of Sweetness. Bidur Mukherjee Panir Madhurah Pado Madhuram Nityam Madhuram Sakyam Madhuram Madhuradhipaterakhilam Madhuram. His song is sweet, his yellow robes are sweet, his eating is sweet, his sleeping is sweet, his beauty is sweet, his tilaka is sweet, everything is sweet about the Emperor of Sweetness. Geetam madhuram, piritam madhuram, bhuktam madhuram, suktam madhuram, rupam madhuram, tilakam madhuram, madhuradhipaterakhilam madhuram. His deeds are sweet, his salvation is sweet, his thefts are sweet, his play is sweet, his offerings are sweet, his peace is sweet, everything is sweet about the Emperor of Sweetness. Taranam madhuram, taranam madhuram, haranam madhuram, ramanam madhuram, mamitam madhuram, shamitam madhuram, madhuradhipaterakhilam madhuram. His berry necklace is sweet, his flower garland is sweet, his Jamuna river is sweet, the ripples are sweet, the water is sweet, his lotuses are sweet, everything is sweet about the Emperor of Sweetness. Punja madhura mala madhura Jamuna madhura mithi madhura salilam madhura madhuradhipaterakhilam madhuram. His milkmaids are sweet, his sport is sweet, his union is sweet, his feast is sweet, his pleasure is sweet, his grace is sweet, everything is sweet about the Emperor of Sweetness. Gopi Madhura, Leela Madhura, Yuktam Madhura, Bhuktam Madhura, Drishtam Madhura, Shishtam Madhura, Madhuradhipaterakhilam madhuram. His But boys are sweet, his cows are sweet, his staff is sweet, his creation is sweet, his trampling is sweet, his yield is sweet, everything is sweet about the emperor of sweetness. Gopamadhura, Gamo Madhura, Yashtir Madhura, Shishtir Madhura, Dalitam Madhuram, Valitam Madhuram, Madhuradipaterakilam Madhuram, Madhuradipaterakilam Madhuram.
Very sweet. Thank you.
Leave this here.
No.
Yeah. Is it back?
It's still there. Sure. Oops, let's make it closer to the crowd.
Having trouble waking up?
All kind of problems today, aren't we?
back on again. Success. Made this way because I couldn't get the printer to work either, so. All right, let's start with the chant. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunatu Saha Devam Bhagavai Tejasvinavadi Tamastu Mavid Vishavai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May Brahman protect us, and guide us, and give us strength and right understanding. May love and harmony be with us all. Oh, peace, peace, peace. So, welcome. Our topic today is what we can learn from creation mythology. Now, a Buddhist might say, we don't need to study creation. They might quote this story about the man who was shot by an arrow, and someone comes up to remove the arrow and says, oh, well, wait, what kind of wood is this made out of? Do you know who made it? How long ago was it made? And he goes on and on like this until he's dead. And he's not, no, the arrow's still not out. So that indicates that we can sometimes get buried in too many details that we really don't need to know about. But let me tell you a joke here. One day, a grandmother was supposed to do some shopping for her grandkids, and the parents of the kids had given her a little shopping list, and she rushed off to one of these big mega department stores just a few minutes before closing, thinking it would be easy to find, and she was just completely lost. And she wandered around and it was closing time, and all these announcements came over the loudspeakers. The store has closed, please bring your merchandise. She's still wandering around, and the clerks are getting more and more impatient. And finally she finds a clerk and says, oh, sir, could you help me out? Certainly, which way did you come in? Not exactly the help she wanted, but it illustrates the point. If we know how we got into something, we can figure out better how to get out of it. And so that's why we study creation myths. And I had this nice quote, and I couldn't find out who said it, but it says, if we imagine the creation of the world, we recreate or rebalance ourselves. This is the foundation of all mystical and magical arts. This illustrates the idea that we are a microcosm of the macrocosm. So if we understand the nature of the cosmos and how it got created, we will know more about our own nature. So many people across all times and cultures have asked the same kinds of questions about how did the earth and heavens get here? Where did we come from? Why are we the way we are? And how should we conduct our lives? What is our relationship between this creation, and the creator? But we are a part of it. We find ourselves as a part of this creation, and we want to try to understand these things so that we can know ourselves. It's a process of self-inquiry, of asking, who am I? And of course, in some sense, we cannot answer these questions in the ordinary sense of knowing. but we can know these things in the deeper sense of knowing. So at the purely spiritual level, we could say that the mystery of creation is really not a problem to be solved through dogma or logic, but it's something that we need to approach on other levels of consciousness, like meditation and mythology. Now, mythologies transcend reason. They may have hints of scientific truths behind them, but they basically transcend reason. And they are symbolic of things that we can't directly put into words. They're things that we can't directly know, and we want to try to understand them more intuitively. And so we do this by trying to connect to these ideas through symbols. So that's what mythologies try to do. And there are many kinds of myths that describe creation. And they arise from different aspects, but they have certain similarities in common, answering all these different kinds of questions that we've just mentioned, like where did we come from, and how did we turn out the way we did, and how did we get out of it, and what's our relationship with the cosmos, and so forth and so on. So that's why we find different kinds of creation myths. And it's important to understand, I think, the creation mythologies, not only of our own tradition, but general traditions. Well, one reason is that our belief in these things, in mythologies, really influences, probably unconsciously, because we've grown up in a particular tradition, and these fundamental concepts are just kind of ingrained in us. But they influence the way we view our place in the world, and they influence our spiritual practices. And so it's good to appreciate how people from all over the globe have come up with their own stories of mythologies, because that will help us to understand people in other cultures and why they act the way they do. But it's also going to be interesting because we're going to find some surprising similarities. Now, mythologies, we have to understand, usually come from some sort of mystical insight of a rishi or a shaman or a medicine person or a saint. They've had some sort of mystical insights, and then they try to explain what they've experienced to the rest of the people of their society. And either because they want to relate to these people directly, or because other people begin to elaborate on the stories, often political and social elements get mixed into the myths, often to justify a particular social order. Now, this leads a bit to the problem, of course, with the social order and the political order, or the mythology. Anyway, we'll find that these things do get mixed in occasionally, quite often, frankly. And so by looking at a variety of creation mythologies around the world, we can begin to distinguish between what the essential elements are that came from the original mystical inspirations, and what things are kind of built in or used as the kind of the framework of the story that came from some sort of cultural or political or social elements. I'm going to read two myths and see if you can guess from where they come from. Now, some of you may be so familiar with these that you'll know right off. But if you're not as familiar with them, that'll be interesting to see what you think. And you'll see that they're both somewhat similar, and yet they're both from very different cultures. Then was not existent, nor existence. There was no realm of air, no sky beyond it. What covered in and where, and what gave shelter? Was water there, unfathomable depth of water? Death was not then, nor was there aught immortal. No sign was there, the days and nights dividers. That one thing breathless, breathed by its own nature, apart from it was nothing whatsoever. Darkness there was, at first concealed in darkness. This all was indiscriminated chaos. All that existed then was void and formless. By the great power of warmth was born that unit. Thereafter rose desire in the beginning. Desire, the primal seed and germ of spirit. Sages who searched with their heart's thought discovered the existence kinship in the non-existent. Transversely was their severing line extended. What was above it then and what was below it? There were begetters. There were mighty forces, free action here and energy up yonder. Who verily knows and who can here declare it, whence it was born and whence comes this creation? The gods are later than this world's production. Who knows then whence it first came into being? He, the first origin of this creation, whether he formed it all or did not form it all, whose eye controls this world in highest heavens, he verily knows it, or perhaps he does not. Anybody want to pose a guess?
This is Nasadeo Suktam.
Yes, it's the Hindu tradition. All right, here's another one. The ever-existing Lord of the uttermost limit of time and space, the everlasting God, fills all space as an indivisible power. It seems that a desire arose in him to create the world. To do this, the everlasting God took upon himself the form of a creator God. Now, this creator God was a creator par excellence. He did so by uttering his own name. He found himself in a vast ocean in which the seed forms of all things existed, but in a state of helplessness and inertness. This creator God raised himself up and passed from passivity to activity, but he found himself in empty space. He thought it out in his heart what he wanted to create. Wisdom, truth, law, and order embodied themselves in a goddess consort, to this task. Then the creator God, in union with his shadow, gave birth to air/dryness and liquids/wetness. And this pair then begot the earth and the sky and the sun. And as an aspect of the creator God, the sun was created as an aspect of this creator God and kept the earth and the sky apart during the day. And the sun makes men and women out of the essence in his eye. Anybody want to guess? No guesses? But you notice how many similar things there were? Talked about an ever-existing something that was beyond space and time. Then it started with a creator God, but it existed in a vast ocean. But there were seeds of formation in there. And then it started from a desire, and then it thought from a thought. Lots of is one of the many Egyptian. Now, just like Hinduism, Egypt has mythologies, depending on which kingdom and which era and which millennia you're talking about. And so you can find all sorts of varieties. And of course, these are sketchy. We have hieroglyphic inscriptions, but a lot of them aren't complete. We think we know how to translate them, but it might not be completely accurate. But anyway, there are lots of interesting elements here. So mythologies, through stories, attempt to explain the nature of this universe through symbolism and analogy. So these myths help to connect us with that mystery to which we cannot connect directly. Doing so, the retelling of myths and performing of rituals based on these myths often are used as part of the basic spiritual practices of a culture. And they can lead to revelations and inspirations and transformations of the people doing those rituals and retelling the stories. All right, so we've noticed already some common motifs in these creation stories. There's usually some sort of primal unity, and then there's some division into some sort of pair of some sort, and it's often male and female. And it might be the sky and the earth, or the sun and the moon, or the waters and the air, some sort of division. And frequently, in conjunction with these stories, you find sort of the opposite. You find the flood stories, which creation sinks back into a primordial, chaotic, watery world. So water seems to be the beginnings and the ends of things as these stories go. Other deities arise, usually from the initial pair, and so you get generations of gods. And in many of these myths, we find that some of the later generations of gods get into arguments with some of their parental gods, and so they do battle with them, and many times the original gods are killed by the younger generation, but then their bodies are dismembered and they become the various elements of the cosmos. So all of this is happening in some other level of realm, and we don't even get to the beginning of space and time until these first gods are destroyed, and these younger gods take these the pieces of the gods that they killed and spread them around and create the universe out of the various parts of their bodies. And you get various variations of that theme, some of them not quite so gruesome. For example, in Hinduism, we describe the universe as parts of the deity, and we didn't dismember the deity to do it. It's just described that way. So then other elements that are fairly common in creation myths have to do with the creation of the earth specifically. And in these stories, we often find that it's created by what they call an earth diver, some sort of animal that has to go to the bottom of the oceans and pick up mud and start creating the dry land out of the mud. You get a sort of distant relative of that in the story of the tortoise avatar that has to lift things out of the water in order for creation to continue back again. You get that also in the churning of the oceans, where the tortoise has to hold the mountain up. So we have to keep in mind that when a story is told about something that's beyond space, time, and creation, you're still going to have to use things that we're familiar with in space, time, and creation to tell the story. So you get these elaborate stories about all these deities doing this and that and the other thing, and then time starts. And then creation starts. So it's just trying to explain things that are beyond our normal comprehension. These stories have to do it this way. But almost all of them start with some sort of oneness or chaos or primordial waters that are beyond space and time, and then space and time are created at a certain point. So look for that as we read some of these myths. And the power to manifest is often within this primal being, or something else gets it going. Sometimes it's, as we said, it's desire or loneliness, which is connected to desire. If you're lonely and you don't want to be lonely, then you desire something else. Sometimes it's the desire to create order out of chaos, or it's out of a desire to know. For example, if you want to know what you look like, you have to look at a reflection of yourself in a mirror. And so if God the creator, the original energy wants to know itself, it has to create something that mirrors itself. And so there again, we have that the cosmos mirrors the creation. So that's the idea of Brahman and Shakti being one and inseparable, but one mirrors the other if we see them as separate. Now, technically, the term creation is cosmogony, which is derived from two Greek words meaning order and beginning. So there we see that these myths are going to talk about creating order out of chaos and how some sort of deity creates more deities, which then gets the whole thing. We're also going to see that often there's an emphasis on opposing forces and a battle. We already mentioned that sometimes the younger deities battle with the older deities. Sometimes it'll be two siblings that are rivals or two forces. For example, and again, we see these cultural influences in the stories. If you look at stories from Iceland, you're going to find that the stories reflect that environment where you have a lot of volcanoes erupting lava and creating land. Well, so it's the battle between the ice and fire that creates the universe. In Hawaii, it's where you have volcanoes creating islands. It's the battle between the ocean and fire. And eventually the fire loses to the ocean, and then it moves to another place and creates another island, then it loses again and creates another island. That's where you get the whole chain of islands. So this indicates this sort of tension. In other words, tension or conflict is often involved in the creative process. Now, many mythologists will divide these cosmogonies into 5 different types, which we've also mentioned some of these. The first is it an ex nihilo type of creation? In other words, did creation come out of nothing, or is it from something that has always existed? The second category, we mentioned already, the Earth Diver stories, which really is kind of down the line from the original creation. Ex nihilo kind of is the ultimate base level of creation story. But often these creation stories involve creating of the earth specifically, and the plants and the animals and eventually human beings. And so it frequently involves what is called Earth Diver stories, where some sort of animal or bird or something is sent down by a deity to bring up a bit of mud to make the earth. A third category, which mythologists look at, involves the creation up of a primal unity into pairs. And the next type is the creation, the dismemberment type of mythology, where the universe is made out of the dismemberment or pieces of a particular deity. Let me just relate one of those, just so you get an idea. And this is from one that's not very commonly retold. So this will be probably new to most of you. And all of these myths from different cultures in ancient times sound a little odd, but we want to look for the common elements of truth in them. This is a North myth of Ymir, and it's an example of this dismembered god type of myth. The Norse myth begins with spaces of freezing cold and intense heat, out of which creation is formed. So you get this kind of conflict idea. Ymir, and out of this was formed Ymir. He produced a man and a woman from his sweat, and a frost ogre from one of his legs. So here again you get pieces of a deity forming different things. And it's interesting now in this one, and this is fairly common, that some sort of essence of the deity forms human being, which means that there's some sort of divineness. There's a divine element in the human beings. So you could kind of call it a yin-yang. Of course, this isn't a Chinese myth, but in our common ideas, this is kind of a yin-yang confluence of heat and cold. And it also produced a cow whose streams of milk nourished Ymir. Then in licking, the cow releases Buri. So here we get the cows of creations. We get first this cow, and then we get another deity, Buri, who becomes the ancestor of three sons, one of whom is Odin, who you've probably heard about. Odin is sort of the chief god of the Norse. Those three sons kill Ymir. So that there's this younger generation killing the original deity. Then they dismember him to create the cosmos, including the habitation for giants, humans, and gods. Humans are created from two trees, with Ask and Embla as the ancestors of all human beings. Now that's a little peculiar because he's already created men and women earlier in the story. But anyway, sometimes myths aren't very linear. This myth so illustrates this idea of the dismemberment of the body used in the cosmos, which in turn is then used to create human beings. The dismembered body and the cosmos and the human body are all alloforms of each other. In other words, they're all kind of mirror images or microcosms of each other. And so sacrifices recreate the universe by dismembering a body and returning it to the cosmos. Eating works in reverse by dismembering the cosmos to make the human body. And death becomes the final sacrifice, returning our bodies to the cosmos and sort of recapitulating the original sacrifice. So sacrifices, being a very common spiritual practice, are usually related to some sort of creation mythology and trying to kind of reproduce the cosmos through the sacrifice. Now the fifth type is one that I don't think is quite as important, and they're a little peculiar, but we're going to just mention them here. The fifth is called the emergent type, in which creation is a gradual process featuring human-like creatures who must travel through many worlds before reaching this one. Now, maybe this is some sort of intuitive idea that evolution has created all the different organisms on the universe. But they usually also seem to have to come through levels of creation. In other words, maybe reminiscence of the ideas of there being 7 heavens and 7 hells, or various regions and spheres of existence. Each one differs slightly, but that is another category of myth. And I have an example here somewhere that we'll get to later if we have time. So now I'm going to just relate a few ideas from mythologies from all over the world to give you some general ideas of what essential elements seem to pop up. In the Algonquin tradition, which is a Native American tradition, the father of life and creation is himself, in some recounting, is never created, and in other accounts is created in some other process. This means that this great spirit of the Algonquins, who is called Kichi Munido, is a divine spirit with no particular human form or particular attribute. So something like Brahman, just this all-pervading great spirit. It's also beyond gender. So again, very much like this idea of Brahman. So it's never personified in Algonquin mythologies. So that I found was very similar to some of our Hindu ideas. In the Navajo tradition, the concept of changing woman is very central. And this kind of reminds me that we usually think of the manifest universe as a divine mother. And of course, Brahman is unchanging, but the manifestation is always changing. And so in the Navajo tradition, they call her changing woman. And the importance of creation stories in the Navajo culture really can't be overstated. They are really integral to all of their spiritual practices and the community's understanding of life. One of the most revered figures is Changing Woman, who is central to the narrative embodied in the transformation, renewal, and the interconnectedness of all living things. She is said to have been born from the union of earth and sky. Her emergence from the natural elements signifies her intrinsic connection to the world around her. This dual heritage represents not only the balance of male and female energies, but also the harmony between the different aspects of existence. Her connection, Her connection to natural elements is quite profound. She's intimately linked to the seasons, and she embodies the cyclical nature of life. As she ages, she reflects the changes in the environment, teaching the Navajo people about the importance of renewal and adaptability. So she goes through cycles every year as the seasons change. And so every spring she is renewed, and in the winter she goes back into a primordial form. She plays a pivotal role in shaping the landscape of the earth. It's her movements that create the mountains and the rivers and the valleys and so forth. She's also associated with the sun, and who's considered her partner. And together they create all the life in the world, which is obvious that the sun is needed for life and the earth is needed for life. Through her actions, the Changing Woman is credited with creating plants and animals, and she nurtures the earth. She ensures the fertility of the earth and the fullness of life. So this emphasizes the interconnectedness of all living things and gives the Native Americans that feeling of being an integral part in all of nature. So you can see how that myth really shapes their understanding. Now, this would be in contrast to, say, the Judeo-Christian tradition, where the creation myth says that basically the earth is created for human beings to be the master of and to be fruitful and multiply and use the resources for their own benefit. So a very different kind of mindset. It's interesting that the Changing Woman is also the birth of hero twins, which is a whole other mythological topic of stories of the hero, which also have similarities in all sorts of cultures. So we might do that on a different occasion. In the Zuni tribes, the original creator was bisexual or a transcendent deity, again, beyond duality. That's a way of saying that you're beyond duality. And by will, we've already seen that element before, by will or desire, the primal, undifferentiated being emitted mists and streams of growth and moisture, is the way the Zunis put it. This primal sea, we've got sea again, then developed green scum, enlivened by the light of the sun. And this was also emitted by this primal being. Eventually, the Earth Mother and the Sky Father separated out of the primal sea and created the world. So again, we get this separation of a pair of opposites. Now we get two deities, and these two deities are going to then birth the whole sequence of other deities to create the various elements in the world. We find that this desire element is common in lots of myths. In fact, in the Greek mythology, Eros, which we usually think of as the god of love or desire, plays a crucial role in the creation of life in the cosmos. According to the Hesiod's theogony, Eros emerged from chaos. That sounds familiar. In other words, instead of just talking about a primordial sea or ocean or waters or darkness, we've already personified chaos in some sense. chaos is sort of a primordial existence. But this chaos is void of all existence originally, and is there considered one of the first deities to emerge alongside of Gaia and Tartarus. So Eros emerges from this cosmos. Eros is not just the god of love, he is the cosmic force that holds things together. It drives attraction and cohesion, pulls things together to form order from disorder. So again, we get this idea from that creation is a process of creating order out of disorder. His influence is evident in many creation myths, which he is depicted as a catalyst for creation, facilitating the birth of the first gods and the establishment of the divine order. Thus, Eros embodies the essence, you could say, of desire, shaping the universe and its inhabitants through his powerful and multifaceted nature. So this idea of desire or will or wanting to create in some way is often essential. And this is what we say in Hinduism. You can't really say why Brahman decided to create. It's just that Brahman and Maya are inseparable, and Maya is the power to manifest a universe. Either if you want to think of it as apparent or actual, it doesn't matter. Power is there to manifest. And why is kind of an unanswerable question, but often it's said to be through play. It's the Divine Mother's play that this universe exists. So being, that kind of explains why human beings seem to like to play. In fact, most animals like to play. If you observe kittens or dogs or many kinds of species of animals, they like to play. Dolphins and whales like to play. It's fun to watch videos of animals that are playing. So play seems to be wired into all of societies and cultures. And this simply reflects again that we are microcosms of the macrocosm. Every animal and living being is a microcosm of the macrocosm. And so if this is God's play, it would be natural that we would be wired to want to play. All right. I think I'm going to save the vibrational ideas to another time. We'll spend a whole other lecture on vibrational models of creation. So here's another example of splitting of a primordial unity, another Egyptian myth. Here, a vast undifferentiated sea gives rise to Atum, who generates Shu and Tefnut, who then produced the earth, Geb, and the sky, Nut, who lies in eternal and unchanging embrace. When Shu separates them, the primal unity is divided into sky and earth, male and female, which makes growth and development possible, but also leads to certain kinds of problems that have plagued creation ever since. Once the separation occurs, the sun is created to mark time. So now time starts. It doesn't matter how long it's taken to talk about this myth, we're going to start time now. And if the sun goes out, the entire cosmos returns to its initial entropy. And there is no going back once we are launched on this voyage. Now, there's some similar myths in Oceania, where the two primal beings, here it talked about the earth and sky being an eternal, unchanging embrace. In the oceanic myth, I think it's New Zealand, they are in this eternal embrace, but they still create all these kids. So all these other deities are created, and they're all smashed in between these two other deities, and they're getting very uncomfortable. Talk about the smothering parents. Okay. So they all try to figure out a way to do it, and then there's conflict between these younger deities as to how to do it, and that's where this conflict then, this explains why problems exist in the world, is because these initial deities can't agree on how to do things. But eventually, one idea wins out, and they push the deities apart and keep them separate so that they can then have space to move and develop. And so sometimes it's described as that one deity gets down and pushes with his legs and so forth. They have all sorts of creative ideas as to how this separation takes place. But frequently this is the start of problems, and that's to describe why problems exist. Kind of like in Adam and Eve, the reason that evil exists in the world is because, they ate of the apple that they weren't supposed to eat, and so they're driven out of the garden, and so then all these problems start, and they have to toil and do all sorts of work and so forth, and they see themselves as naked and all sorts of things. So lots of myths have this kind of problem in them. Now, in the Mesopotamian region, where the primal important things in the environment are the Tigris and Euphrates rivers going into the Persian Gulf, their myth talks about the mixing of sweet water and salt water. And so these two arise, and the vibrations from the waves, the tumultuous waves of the waters mixing, is the beginning of creation. This is another myth where there's a series of gods that come forth, and eventually one of the younger gods has to defeat the original god, Tiamat, and she's dispersed. Her parts are dispersed to create all the important things in the environment. There is another very interesting creation mythology from the Gnostic tradition. Now, we normally think of Christianity as just Christianity. We forget that there are all sorts of interesting Gnostic traditions that differ from the version that we're familiar with in modern day, unless you happen to be a Gnostic on your phone, familiar with it. But to briefly summarize this model, God the Father gave rise to a host of spiritual beings. So this sounds a lot, you don't usually get this kind of idea in the normal Christian doctrine. But there's a host of spiritual beings called eons who populated heaven, which the Gnostics called the pleroma, or fullness. And including in these was the mother deity, which would become the Virgin Mary, and Christ. One of the last of these beings to emanate from the Father was Sophia, which gave birth to a new being without the involvement of her partner or the approval of the Father. The being born under such circumstances was nothing like the perfect beings of the pleroma. Instead, it was ignorant and malevolent. This was the demiurge, or the craftsman, whom the Gnostics identified with the God of the Old Testament. So they're trying to separate themselves from the old ideas. He created the material world, so he's the one that created the material world, which mirrored his own wickedness. It mirrored his wicked personality and trapped sparks of divinity, or fragments of the pleroma, within humans. So this gives you the Gnostic conception that the world is evil. But there's a spark of divinity in you, and you're going to try to awaken that. Okay, so that's very different from the Navajo or even the Hindu conception, where this is everything coming from the Divine Mother. So everything has a spark of divinity in it, and we don't have this idea of some evil creature creating the world. Now this, in another Gnostic tradition, there's a secret book of John. John is the most mystical of the four Gospels in Christianity, and they've got an even more mystical version. And it sounds like they borrowed from the Vedas. It says, "In the beginning there was the One, the Father, who is illimitable, since there is nothing before it to limit it; unfathomable, since there is nothing before it to fathom it; immeasurable, since there was nothing before it to measure it; invisible, since nothing has seen it; eternal, since it exists eternally; unutterable, since nothing could comprehend it to utter it; unnameable, since there is nothing before it to give it a name. The Father was surrounded by luminous spiritual water. He gazed into the water and saw his reflection. His reflection became Barbelo, the mother, the female counterpart. So again, this idea that the reflection of the original deity is the manifestation or the mother part. So Barbelo was also called Pronoia, the forethought, because she was the first thought of the Father. Barbella asked for the Father to grant her foreknowledge, incorruptibility, life eternal, and truth. The Father granted her request. Foreknowledge, incorruptibility, life eternal, and truth came into being and glorified their Father and their mother. Then the Father gazed into Barbello, and she conceived by him. She gave birth to a spark of light similar to the Father's light. This was the Son, who was also called autogenous, self-generated, since he was at bottom identical with the Father. He was further called Christ, a name greater than every name. The Father anointed the Son with his goodness, which passed his perfect goodness unto his Son. The Son glorified his Father and Mother. Just as Barbella had asked the one to give her new eons, the Son asked to be given another, mind. The Father and Mother agreed, and mind arose and glorified its Father and Mother. So, very interesting concepts. Mind wanted to bring something else into being through the Father's word, and will was born, followed by the word. I'd remind you that some of the Sankya's ideas of various things coming out in creation. Now, just as we can't really give one summary of, say, Native American myths, same thing holds true for African myths. They differ widely across the continent. And of course, Northern Africa, which is more centered around the Mediterranean, is quite different from sub-Saharan Africa, which is not as much in contact, or certainly wasn't in the earliest days. But so the myths vary widely across the continents, reflecting the diverse cultures and languages of the people. But there are a few common elements. In some of the West African traditions, the Creator God speaks the world into existence, emphasizing the power of the spoken word, which of course we get in Hinduism as well. And of course, Saraswati is the Vak Devi, the speech Devi, and Kali wears a garland with all the letters of the alphabet around her, indicating the creative force, and so forth. In the Zulu culture, the god Unkulunkulu is said to have sung the world into existence. And the Dogon of Mali, the creation universe, is tied to the sound of the first vibration. So you get a lot of vibrational energies in this type of tradition. In Egypt, in northern Africa, Ptah said that every divine word came into existence by the thought of his heart and the commandment of his tongue. And in the Hebrew, the 10 zephyrs, or spears of the tree of life in the Kabbalah, are called whirlwinds or vortices of utterances or energies. Now, another concept that's often used to try to explain the nature of creation from some primal deity is to say that it's the dream, or some sort of a cosmic dream. And so we are all parts of the cosmic dreamer. And of course, we use this in Hinduism a lot because in Advaita Vedanta, we think of this world as somewhat unreal, and yet it's not completely unreal. And so this dream analogy is very useful, because when you have a dream, everything seems very real when you're dreaming it. And when you wake up, well, you had a dream, that was real, but the things in the dream don't seem so real anymore. So there's sort of an element of reality and unreality in the dream world. And in Paramahamsa Yogananda's book, The Divine Romance, the creation of the universe is also described as divine thought process. And some people that write about this call this a universal dream, a dream in the universe. And the cosmic dream is not just a delusion, but a creative act through which the divine being gives form to reality. And again, to get from consciousness to matter, to give life to this dream, the divine divine intelligence divides its consciousness into two parts, the unmanifest spirit and the manifest nature or cosmic energy. The latter, through a series of vibrations and condensations, gives rise to matter. Divine thought, initially pure and subtle, gradually materializes through various stages. And that kind of mirrors this idea that the universe in creation goes through stages, kind of like the emergent myths has things coming out in stages. Now, I'll give an example of this earth diver type of myth. And the importance of this myth, these types of myth, is again this idea that water is an important element in all creation stories. And the return to water implies some sort of dissolution of form back into formlessness, which is mirrored in flood stories. Then you get a restart, a recycling. All right, so this is another aspect of the Algonquin stories. In the beginning of creation, there was nothing but water everywhere, and no land could be seen. On the waves, a canoe floated. You see, you can't make these myths linear. And a man sat in it. It's probably like a deity, but they're calling it a man in this rendition. And he wept because he had no idea what would happen. After a while, a muskrat climbed into the canoe and said, "Greetings, grandfather, why are you crying?" And the man answered, "I have been here a long time and I cannot find any land." And so the muskrat replied, "But there is earth under all this water." And the man asked the muskrat to get some land, and the muskrat dove down to come up with both paws full of mud. He dove down again and brought up a ball of earth in his mouth. The man did not think that this was enough land to live on. The man asked the muskrat if he was all alone, and the muskrat answered, "No." The muskrat gave out a call, and the animal chiefs of the waters swarmed up to the canoe. The first to come was a white muskrat. "I hear that you want to see us," the white muskrat said to the man. "Yes," answered the man. "I want you to bring me some earth so I can make the world. I will make it a good world where you can all live." The animals agreed, and they all began to die. They brought up earth, and the man they called grandfather kneaded the mud that they brought and molded it into a long column that reached from the surface of the waters to the earth beneath it, and continued to add with the help of the animals. In time, they would create a world of trees, mountains, and beauty for all to live. So that's the example of the earth diver story. Now, some of you might have heard of Wankantanka. That's another Native American spirit deity. It's again the kind of the all-pervading spirit. The Great Spirit is often called. And again, in their mythology, it says that there was a feeling of loneliness. And with great focus and energy, Wankantanka shaped Inyan, a mighty rock, is the first deity and the foundation of existence. So we're going to skip this earth diving business. We're just going to create a rock. So the first deity just creates this rock so we can have um, a creation. Then from Inyan's blood, you can't get blood out of a turnip, but apparently you can get it out of a rock. Maka, the earth, was formed, and from Inya's breath, Skan, the sky, came into being. So again, you get this idea that various elements in the creation come from parts of the deity. And that's frequently an idea that from the breath comes the air, from sometimes the eyes will create the sun and the moon, that kind of thing. Then let's see what happens here. Inyan, Maka, and Skan then combine their powers to give rise to we, the sun. The four gods, the entities Inyan, Maka, Skan, and we, emerge as separate yet interconnected deities, all emerging from Wankantanka. So again, we have this idea that all the deities, is similar to everything coming from Brahman, everything comes from Wankantanka. The sequence might be a little different, and the importance of different deities is a little different, but it's kind of the same idea. Now, how did we get here? Some versions speak of Inktomi, a cunning spirit aiding in the shape of the earth and preparing it for human habitations. Alternately, other stories depict Wankantanka directly creating the first human beings. So this underscores the sacredness of all existence, highlighting the interconnectedness again that's common in most Native American traditions of all things and their ultimate source in Wankantanka, the Great Spirit. It stresses the significance of respecting the natural world and the integral process and the ongoing creation process. Now, the most common creation story has to do with the cosmic egg, and this will end our story time because we're out of time. But the cosmic egg, again, is used as a symbol for the creative process. And you can kind of see why. In Hinduism, it's Hiranyagarbha, the primordial egg. And Manu divides the egg into two parts, the heavens and the earth, and between them the air and the 8 cardinal directions and the eternal abode of the waters. In Finland, Luonnotar, the eggs rolled into the sea, and the lower part formed the earth and the mother of all creatures, and the yolk became the radiant sun, while the white became the moon. And so you have all of these different stories creating this idea of the egg. And of course, the egg looks undifferentiated and androgynous and not completely undifferentiated when you look at it from the outside. But when you crack it open, it looks like a duality. So you get from oneness to duality just by cracking it open. And then from that duality, something else springs. And of course, if you're raising chickens, you know darn well that you get a whole chicken out of it. And so for the cosmic egg, you get the whole cosmos out of it. And so the idea that all things are in seed form in the side of a cosmic egg is a very graphic idea. In the Dogon tradition from Africa, Amma, the seed of the cosmos, is an egg, and it vibrated 7 times, then burst open to reveal Nomo, the creator spirit. This fell to earth and was followed by a female twin, and then 4 more Nomo pairs were created. Created the earth, the seasons, the days, the nights, and human beings. So you can see how you go from the oneness to some sort of duality, and then usually this is a pair of deities and creates more deities. And then these deities represent all the different either energies of the universe or aspects of the universe, parts of the universe. And so creation then goes on from there. So we'll probably have another lecture or two on creation, and also creation from a vibrational standpoint, creation from a philosophical standpoint, and creation from the Shankara and scientific viewpoint. So, in essence, we want to remember that we are a microcosm of the macrocosm, and that we can try to picture ourselves as being emanated from this whole universe, and that the whole universe has divine elements in it. But while we use that as a starting point, we also don't want to just see as the creation as divine. We want to also go back to the creator. Swami Vivekananda reminded Betty Leggett's daughter, Alberta, of that when she was commenting on how beautiful the creation was. And he says, if the creation is that beautiful, think of how beautiful the creator is. And Ramakrishna Nanda also said very similar things to Deva Mata when he told her, well, yes, the creation is beautiful, but it's now time to think of the creator and not the created. So that concludes today's part of the creation, and we'll continue creation in later talks. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Filled with Brahman are the things we see. Filled with Brahman are the things we see not. From out of Brahman floweth all that is. From Brahman all, yet is it still the same. Oh, peace, peace, peace. Oh, and a couple of reminders. We're going to be starting the Durga Puja season this month, and there'll be the Durga chanting during Navaratri, and we'll probably ask you to pledge a certain amount of japam during that period. You'll probably get an email to that respect. And then there's Sandhi Puja, the 48 minutes that celebrates Durga's conquering the demon Mahisasura. And so we chant Jai Shri Durga during that 48 minutes to commemorate that. And it's a wonderful time. We can always use time to remember the Divine Mother as the one who can free us from our lower tendencies and our lower ego tendencies. But this is a special time when we can ask the Divine Mother to help to remove any obstacles from our spiritual path. Just as in this period, which we're just ending, we can ask Ganesha to remove our obstacles to our spiritual path. And you know, Ganesha represents really an aspect of both the divine masculine and feminine, and a bridge between this world and the next. That's why he's thought of as the gatekeeper, and that's why we honor him before every puja, because he removes the obstacles to the divine, because he can open that gateway to the divine. All right, so you may offer flowers now, and then we'll enjoy the prasad.
And we did want to say one thing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Swami, for coming as usual. But thank you, Debbie, for everything. Yeah, I know you're leaving us. That's from my understand. This is your last time with us. She's going to with her family to California, is it?
Yes.
So thank you. We're gonna miss you. I hope you come,
Yeah,
come
I
and
know,
visit.
I will miss it too.
So I hope you come and visit us again.
You can join us on Zoom.
So you can
She
Zoom.
might come and see you in person over there.
Yeah, if I get down to San Diego, I get to see you. in
Oh,
person.
San Diego.
Yeah, I don't get down there too often, but I do get down there. So,
So you never know.
especially for their retreat. Sometimes they do special retreats and they move to the Girl Scout camp, which is just across the street, basically, from the center, where they can host, 60 people. And they have a whole day thing. They have yoga exercises and then talks by Swami Atmaviyananda and some other people. And so sometimes they invite us down to do sound baths during that time. So That's one time I get down there anyway.
Well, we thank you, Swami, and we thank you, Debbie, and we'll see all of you soon. Next weekend, I won't be here. I'm going to be traveling, but we will have puja here on either Saturday or Sunday. And then I'm back again for the following Saturday or Sunday, whichever's better. We'll put an email up to see what's better for you guys. And we'll do our normal thing. Okay. Thank you all so much.
Yeah, and thank you, Bidur, for your singing. It was beautiful.
Yeah, thank you, Bidur.
We covered all of the spiritual energies of the season.
Okay, we'll end the stream now too. Goodbye, everybody at home.